If you're over 55, your memory could be fading. And the most shocking part? It might be because of habits you don't even know you have. Imagine forgetting your best friend's birthday, where you parked your car, or even a conversation you had just yesterday. Scary, right? But what if I told you that some of the most common things you do daily, things you trust, even enjoy, might actually be shrinking your brain, dulling your focus, and accelerating memory loss? Why does multitasking make you forget things faster? Is it true that certain health foods could harm your memory? And what role does your sleep really play in mental clarity, especially after 55? Stay with me, because the answers are more surprising than you think. And hey, if you care about staying sharp, active, and independent for as long as possible, don't forget to subscribe now so you never miss out on tips that could change your health and maybe even your life. Let's start with something you've probably heard a million times: get a good night's sleep. But here's the catch. If you're over 55 and you're sleeping just as much as you always have, but still feel foggy, confused, or forgetful, there's a reason. As we age, our sleep changes. We produce less melatonin, we get less deep sleep, and our sleep cycles become fragmented. But the real damage isn't just feeling tired. It's what happens while you're sleeping. Your brain has its own built-in janitorial system. It's called the glymphatic system, and it becomes super active during deep sleep. Its job? To literally wash away the waste and toxic proteins that build up in the brain throughout the day, especially a protein called beta amyloid, which is directly linked to Alzheimer's disease. So if your sleep is disrupted, if you wake up often, don't sleep long enough, or you're using sleep medications that sedate you but don't allow deep restorative sleep, you're not clearing that waste. Night after night, it builds up, and over time, it starts to affect memory, focus, and even mood. Now here's the twist. Many older adults think they sleep fine, but studies using brainwave analysis show that even when people feel rested, they're missing deep sleep. So the next time you brush off a night of poor sleep, remember, your brain isn't just tired, it's toxic. And that matters. Now let's talk about something even more subtle: multitasking. You might think you're great at it, watching the news while making dinner, scrolling on your phone while chatting with a friend. But neuroscience tells a different story. Your brain doesn't really multitask. It switches quickly from one task to another. Each time it does, there's a cost. It's like trying to read 2 books at once. You're not absorbing either one. For younger people, this switching still takes a toll, but the brain bounces back faster. After 55, those switches are slower, and the cost to your working memory is higher. You lose context, you forget steps, and your recall drops. Over time, multitasking isn't a skill, it's a slow erosion of your memory's sharpness. That forgotten name, that lost appointment, it might not be just aging. It could be the overload you're putting your brain through daily without realizing it. And here's a surprising one: low-fat diets. For decades, we were told fat is bad. So we switched to skim milk, low-fat cheese, and fat-free everything. But your brain is made up of nearly 60% fat. It thrives on healthy fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids like DHA and EPA. These fats build the structure of neurons, protect against inflammation, and are essential for communication between brain cells. When you cut too much fat, especially the good kind, you literally starve your brain, and you replace those calories with something else, usually sugar or refined carbs, which spike insulin and cause inflammation, both of which are now strongly linked to cognitive decline. So, if you've been reaching for low-fat yogurt or skipping eggs to eat clean, thinking you're helping your heart, you could be hurting your brain instead. It's not just about what you avoid, it's about what you replace it with. Now let's talk about hydration. Yes, drinking water sounds too simple to matter, but dehydration is a silent threat to memory. Even a 1–2% drop in hydration can impair your cognitive function. You might think, I'm not that thirsty, but by the time you feel thirsty, your brain's already under stress. Dehydration thickens your blood, makes it harder for oxygen to reach your brain, and slows down the electrical signals that allow neurons to communicate. And here's where age makes it worse. As we get older, our sense of thirst diminishes. That means older adults are more likely to be mildly dehydrated without knowing it. Add medications like diuretics or blood, pressure pills that flush water out of the body, and it's a perfect storm for memory lapses, brain fog, and confusion. So the next time you forget where you put your keys or why you walked into a room, ask yourself, have you had enough water today? But nothing's more deceptive than stress. Chronic stress might not seem like a memory issue, but it's one of the most dangerous long-term threats to your brain health. Here's why. When you're under stress, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. In small doses, it's helpful. But when it's elevated for weeks, months, or years, like it is for many people after 55 dealing with finances, caregiving, health problems, it begins to damage the hippocampus. That's the part of your brain responsible for forming new memories. Studies have shown that people with chronic stress have a smaller hippocampus. Smaller. Think about that. The part of your brain responsible for memory is literally shrinking, and you may not feel it until it's already affecting you in day-to-day life. Now combine chronic stress with sleep issues, multitasking, low-fat diets, and dehydration, and you begin to see how easily daily habits can become a cocktail for cognitive decline. But there's one more piece, and this one might really surprise you. Something you do every single day, often without thinking. Sitting, extended sitting, especially over 55, is now being referred to as the new smoking. Why? Because physical movement is critical to circulation. When you move, you pump more oxygen and nutrients to the brain. You also release brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which is like Miracle-Gro for your brain cells. It supports new connections, improves memory, and even protects against age-related decline. But here's the thing. Even if you exercise for 30 minutes a day, if you sit the rest of the time, the benefits get erased. That's right. Being active for 30 minutes and then sedentary for 10 hours can still increase your risk for memory loss and dementia. That's how powerful this daily habit is. So what can you do? The trick is breaking up the sitting. Stand up every 30 to 45 minutes. Walk around the room. Stretch. Move your legs. These tiny shifts can massively improve brain circulation and oxygenation, especially as you age. And before we wrap up this first part, there's one more subtle but powerful habit: skipping meals, specifically breakfast. Now, intermittent fasting has its place, and it's not inherently harmful. But for older adults, skipping breakfast often leads to unstable blood sugar throughout the day, and the brain is highly sensitive to those drops. Low blood sugar can trigger confusion, irritability, dizziness, and over time, if repeated frequently, it can actually impact memory formation. If you're going long hours without food, and especially if you're starting your day with only coffee, your brain might be running on fumes, and it shows. Focus dips. You forget simple tasks. You feel foggy, and while it may seem like a minor inconvenience, it adds up, especially over months and years. So let's pause and think about this. Are these habits familiar to you? Do you multitask a lot, sleep less deeply than you used to, sip coffee but forget water, push through stress without real breaks, or spend long hours sitting? If so, it's not just about feeling tired. It's about how your brain is adapting to those conditions, or failing to. If you're over 50 and your joints ache when you get out of bed, go upstairs or just try to enjoy a walk. It's not your age, and it's not your fault. The real issue? Your body's running out of a natural substance that cushions your joints like a shock absorber. And most supplements out there, glucosamine, collagen, all of it, don't fix this. But now, researchers have discovered a breakthrough that can actually restore what your joints are missing. And people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s are seeing real relief. If you're feeling stiff, sore, or weaker lately, stop guessing. Check the link in the pinned comment now. And here's where things get even more interesting. Because the habits we've just talked about, they often work in combination, creating something much more dangerous than the sum of its parts. But there's still more. Let's go deeper into the next few daily behaviors that might be slowly fading your memory. And the good news, these are things you can change. One of the most underestimated habits is something that's supposed to help you stay informed: the constant consumption of media, especially digital media. Think about it. How many times a day do you switch from one screen to another? Your phone, then your computer, maybe the TV, back to your phone again. The barrage of headlines, notifications, text messages, and emails means your brain is in a constant state of alert. That might seem harmless, even normal, but here's the neurological catch. When your brain is constantly switching attention, you're not just splitting focus, you're weakening the brain's ability to form deep, long-term memories. You're trading retention for reaction. And worse, this overload taxes the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, decision-making, and memory. It's like driving a car with the gas pedal all the way down, with no time to refuel. You're constantly taking in new information, but not giving your brain the rest or space to process it. This input fatigue can lead to symptoms that mimic early cognitive decline, forgetting names, struggling to find words, losing track of conversations. But here's the hopeful part. Simply by limiting screen time, turning off unnecessary notifications, and scheduling small breaks away from digital devices, you allow your brain to breathe. That break gives it time to consolidate memories instead of drowning in new data. Another silent brain drainer? Artificial sweeteners. That's right. You may have made the switch from sugar to sweeteners thinking it's a healthier choice, but here's what research is starting to show, especially for older adults. Artificial sweeteners like aspartame, saccharin, and sucralose can interfere with the brain's ability to regulate neurotransmitters. Some studies have even suggested that high levels of aspartame may impact memory and increase oxidative stress in the brain. Now, to be clear, the FDA considers these sweeteners safe in small doses, but here's where the danger comes in. They're everywhere. In diet sodas, low-calorie yogurts, sugar-free gum, even some vitamins. And for someone over 55, with a more sensitive nervous system, the cumulative effect over time could influence memory, learning, and mood. Even more alarming, they may also alter the gut-brain axis, the delicate communication network between your digestive system and your brain, leading to shifts in mental clarity, focus, and even increasing the risk of cognitive decline over time. If you've been choosing sugar-free to stay healthy, you might be swapping one problem for another. Consider using natural alternatives like stevia or monk fruit in moderation, or better yet, reduce your dependency on hypersweet foods altogether. Your taste buds will adapt, and your brain, it'll thank you. Let's talk about another habit that flies under the radar: isolation. Now, more than ever, older adults are spending more time alone, whether it's retirement, the loss of a partner, adult children moving away, or simply the convenience of digital communication replacing real interaction. Loneliness is becoming common. But here's what's critical to know. Loneliness doesn't just affect your mood, it changes your brain. Social interaction isn't just enjoyable, it's neurologically necessary. Engaging in conversation, reading facial expressions, sharing stories, all of it keeps your brain flexible, engaged, and active. Studies show that socially isolated older adults are at a 40% higher risk for developing dementia. 40%. That's not just correlation, that's cause. Social interaction stimulates the same regions of the brain that memory does, especially the hippocampus and frontal lobes. So when we go days, or even weeks, without meaningful social connection, those neural pathways weaken. Memory follows. So call a friend, join a local group, volunteer, say yes to invitations. Even short casual interactions like chatting with a cashier or neighbor can make a difference. Now here's something that's going to surprise a lot of people. One of the daily habits most linked to memory decline? Poor posture. I know, it sounds strange, but slouching, especially for long periods, affects more than just your spine. When you hunch over, particularly at a desk or while scrolling on your phone, you compress your chest and reduce oxygen intake. And remember, your brain depends on oxygen. Less oxygen over time means less energy for neurons, slower communication between brain cells and, you guessed it, impaired memory. That sluggish feeling, that fog, it could be partially due to posture. But posture also affects circulation. A forward head position and rounded shoulders reduce blood flow to the brain. Combine that with poor breathing mechanics, and your cognitive performance starts to suffer. The good news is, correcting posture is often as simple as being aware of it. Set reminders to sit tall, open your chest, and take full, deep breaths. Throughout the day, Try standing while working or walking during phone calls. These simple adjustments can drastically increase your brain's access to oxygen and boost clarity almost instantly. And now we come to one of the most deceptive and damaging habits of all: mindless eating. Not overeating, not unhealthy eating, just distracted, unconscious eating. Eating while watching TV, scrolling your phone, or working on the computer. You may think it's harmless, even productive, but the way you eat deeply affects how your brain works. When you eat in a distracted state, your body doesn't fully activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. That means your digestion suffers, nutrient absorption drops, and inflammation increases. But even more critically, your brain doesn't register the meal in the same way. You don't remember what you ate, how much, or when. And here's the kicker. Research shows that people who eat distractedly not only remember their meals less, they also experience more cravings, consume more calories later in the day, and are more likely to develop insulin resistance over time. And insulin resistance, as we've already talked about, is a direct risk factor for cognitive decline. So if you're eating meals with distractions around you, your brain is missing out on the nourishment it's supposed to get, not just physically, but neurologically. The fix? Eat mindfully. Even one meal a day without screens, phones, or distractions can rewire your brain's connection to your body and drastically improve satiety, awareness, and cognition. All of this leads us to a powerful conclusion. Your memory isn't just slipping because of age. It's being shaped, sculpted, really, by the things you do every single day, the sleep you skip, the meals you rush, the stress you ignore, the conversations you don't have, the movement you put off, the way you breathe, sit, eat, and think. Each one on its own might seem small, but together they create the environment your brain lives in. And that's the key. It's not just about avoiding disease. It's about optimizing the space your brain lives in, nourishing it, supporting it, protecting it. Because here's the truth. You are not at the mercy of memory loss. You're not destined to forget your favorite memories, your children's voices, or the stories that make up your life. You have more power than you think, and every single habit you shift, every adjustment you make, is like opening a window in a dusty room, letting the light back in. So as we wrap up, take a breath, reflect. Which of these habits are you willing to change first? What's one small shift you can make today that your brain will thank you for tomorrow? And if you want to keep this momentum going, don't stop here. Tap the video on screen now and dive into the next one. It's filled with more surprising, science-backed ways to protect your health and sharpen your mind. I'll see you there.